nervously. However, Han realizes that his condition is getting worse, and Eren reveals that the pain won't go away even if he drinks a potion. Jenna becomes concerned about his well-being and asks Han if there is a way to treat him. Contemplating that some NPCs have special skills, Han inquires Phriasis if she has any healing skills, but she apologizes as she doesn't have any skills. It creates tension among the teammates, and they become worried about his well-being. Han is aware that Eren cannot be healed with basic HP potions, and the longest time he will move properly is about 10 minutes. They also don't have any antidotes with them, and there are no NPCs here who can heal. At that moment, Eren reminisces that Han once said that he would leave them behind if they couldn't catch up, so he considers this as that moment. He tremblingly stands on the ground, stating that he will stall for time, proposing they leave him here. Jenna anxiously remarks that she wants her entire team to go together, but Eren asserts that it's not possible. Eren considers that he will be a burden on them, and reflecting on the prowess of his teammates, he sadly admits that he is too weak. Amid the chaos, Han turns his attention to Ivolka, who seems fully exhausted. He speculates that if they consider efficiency, it would be right to leave Eren here since the target, Phriasis, can't protect herself. Furthermore, he believes that bringing Eren along is too much for them to handle, as protecting one person and protecting two are very different matters. After contemplating the situation, Han gulps his HP potion to regain his strength and hands the other potion to Eren, urging him to drink it. When the guy disheartedly comments that potions won't do anything, Han acknowledges it won't heal him, but it will prevent him from getting worse. Han commands his subordinates to take out all the potions they have and hands the potion bag to Eren, advising him to drink one every 10 minutes. The protagonist then devises a plan and splits his party into two halves. Party 1 includes him, Edith, and Phriasis, who will take the young girl out of this place. Party 2 will be Eren, Jenna, and Ivolka, and he instructs them to protect Eren until this kid escapes. Jenna then curiously wonders if they will help Eren. In response, Han highlights that the enemy is after the young girl, so if they head in the opposite direction, they can find a safe place for Eren. When Eren suggests they let him be, Han sternly urges him to shut up. Meanwhile, Edith expresses her concerns regarding the plan, that if Party 1 does that, it will be hard for them to exit the city. She emphasizes that since there will be a ton of soldiers at the exit, it will be harder for them to protect the young miss. Han remarks that they will take a different approach and reminds them that the stage's first objective was to find the target to protect and rescue. After accomplishing that, their new objective is to have the target escape, and Han realizes that they won't let them clear the mission so easily. He elaborates on the mission that they will try to infiltrate the crowd instead and declares that they will escape from the city tonight. According to the protagonist, since they will be less capable of fighting with a divided team, they can't try and fight their way out. Despite the consequences, there are also advantages, such as they can be stealthier with fewer people in a group, and they can escape without a fight. He believes that if they don't fight, then there is no need to have a mage with them. Fire magic is bound to garner a lot of attention, so they can't take Ivolka with them. Meanwhile, Jenna will also be on the same team as Eren so that they can be more flexible with how they react to dire situations. Han instructs the sub-party to head to the edge of the city, alerting them that there will be search teams all night, so they need to take Eren and run away. When Eren regretfully apologizes to him, Han asserts that he must not be mistaken, as he is not keeping him alive for his own sake. He instructs the ladies that if they are in any perilous situation and can't protect Eren, they must abandon him without hesitation. He emphasizes that their lives are of higher priority than an injured person, so they must take care of themselves. With that, he asserts that the break is over and instructs Sub-Party 2 to go right while Party 1 will go left. While descending the stairs, Han inquires Edith about hiding places, to which she reveals that there are a few. Furthermore, she mentions that the alleyways are pretty complex, and they can go inside buildings too. When the protagonist curiously wonders if they can go inside buildings, she concurs, revealing that she tried it earlier. Considering her assertion, Han speculates that it's different from the 5th floor since, unlike the other floors, they can walk inside the buildings, so he finds it a good thing. As they pass through the alleyways, out of the blue, an inebriated man approaches Phriasis, which catches her off guard. As he continues to irritate the young miss, Edith reacts in time and ferociously smacks the drunkard's leg, which tumbles him aside. Edith then clarifies that it's the slums, but this is a good place to hide. The streets are like a maze, and there are a lot of buildings to refuge in. She walks ahead to look for a place to hide. Meanwhile, a guide message for long-term missions pops up, mentioning that there are instances when missions are prolonged, so even if the user logs out, the heroes will continue to work. Viewing the notification, Han discerns that it's probably for master editing, as it must be boring for him to watch. The protagonist then notices the young miss, who seems nervous but tries to stay calm. He assumes that she isn't an ordinary kid. He speculates that if she had been ordinary, she would have rejected their offer to come with them in the first place. She quickly realized that coming with them was the way to live, even amidst the chaos. Later, as dusk falls, they hide inside a building, and Han praises Edith for finding a great place, as there is a back door that allows them to escape easily. Edith suggests they should hide here until it's dark and reveals that she will set a trap by the entrance, so they must be careful. However, Phriasis exhales a deep sigh, wondering if they will spend their time in this building. Meanwhile, Edith steps outside, prompting Han to ponder if she is going again. In response, she remarks that she has duties to find a way out and sarcastically asserts that Han alone will be enough to protect Phriasis. As she departs, Han returns to that building, contemplating that he should have put Jenna in his place, since there isn't much he can do in a place like this. While he is engrossed in his thoughts, Phriasis Al-Lagner introduces herself as the second successor of the Empire. When Han doesn't pay much attention to her revelation, she guesses it doesn't work on him and then wonders where he came from. Han asserts that it's none of her business, but she insists that she has revealed her identity, so he should at least return the favor. The protagonist then remarks that she wouldn't understand even if he told her, prompting her to wonder if he comes from a place she doesn't know about. Phriasis speculates if he is the soldier that saved Nelsa, which catches Han's attention. He reflects that Nelsa was the name of the city on the 10th floor, and he remembers overhearing the NPCs talking. However, considering his silence, Phriasis remarks that it seems she is right and reveals that she saw it in her dreams. She reveals that in her dreams, soldiers were fighting hard to protect the city. Even though she couldn't see their faces, she felt like Han and his comrades were them. According to her, Nelsa's survivors said that a group of people protected them, and they said that if it weren't for them, the city would have fallen, but they couldn't see their faces. She sadly states that she has been ominously having strange dreams for a year, and everything was ending in the dreams. The Empire, the 4 renowned families' cities, and the small and big cities and villages, everything on the continent was on fire. Those dreams made her certain that, at this rate, the continent would meet its end. Phriasis then asks Han whether he knows that ominous things are occurring all over the continent. She urges that there are mysterious diseases, thriving parasites and monsters, and she assumes the Nelsa invasion was a part of that because they usually don't invade human territory. However, Han doesn't pay much attention and wonders why she is telling him all that stuff. In response, she mentions that she needs power to save the world, prompting Han to ponder if she wants his help. When Phriasis concurs, Han doesn't get why she would ask him for help and urges her to use her incredible power as a princess. He firmly states his belief that there must be many knights in line to provide their assistance to her. However, Phriasis denies his assertion, revealing the harsh truth that she is a scarecrow who has the position of a princess. With a heavy heart, she confesses that she has nothing else and no one listens or obeys her. In response, Han suggests she must use her money to get some mercenaries, to which she abruptly proposes that Han become her mercenary. She assures him that she will pay whatever he wants and emphasizes that she may be a scarecrow, but she has money. Despite her luring offer, Han refuses her request and urges her to look for some other capable person if she has money. Phriasis informs Han that when she talks about her dreams, no one believes her, and they don't even want to listen to her. However, she believes that Han is different, as he didn't laugh at her story. That's why she wants to hire him. Nevertheless, Han finds it annoying and contemplates that if the explanation he heard from the promotion is true, this stage is Taunia's past. He reflects on Tyle's words that he needs to make them change the story, even if the settings and plausibility are messed up, or even if space and time are mixed up and destroyed. After contemplating it thoroughly, Han considers that even if he wanted to help, it would not work out because this child is just an NPC, and they won't have anything to do with each other once this mission is over. Despite Phriasis' persistence, Han maintains his refusal, stating that he has some reason, and when she asks him to explain, Han grins, commenting that she might laugh at it. When Phriasis remains oblivious to what he is talking about, Han reveals that they are from a different world. Phriasis is surprised by his revelation about a different world and curiously wonders what he means. Considering that there is nothing to do until dawn, he decides to talk to her a bit. With a grin, Han comments that it's a shitty place and they are here because of a mission. He elaborates that in that world, they are given missions, and if they can't complete them, they die. Their current mission was to protect someone, but they didn't know who it was, and they realized that it was her. He emphasizes that they will die if they fail to protect the target, which bewilders the young miss. Phriasis curiously asks again if they are here from another world to carry out a mission here. The protagonist concurs, stating that they will be forcibly returned to their world once they are done with the mission, which is why he can't help her. However, Phriasis finds his story absurd and speculates whether he is lying so he can reject her request. Han firmly remarks that she can believe whatever she wants, asserting that it doesn't matter to him. Shortly after, Phriasis agrees to believe that they are warriors from another world and highlights that she won't doubt him since he didn't laugh at her story. Furthermore, she emphasizes that she gets that he has reasons and that she won't try to change his mind, asserting him to do his job and she will do hers. When the protagonist inquires about her job, the princess reveals that it's obviously to prevent her dreams from becoming reality. He then wonders whether she called the citizens to the square of White Silver Hall. In response, she concurs, stating that she was going to give a speech to them, prompting Han to wonder the reason behind her motive. She then mentions that it's to gain more influence because she is nothing compared to her brother at the moment. Han contemplates that if it weren't for his team, this child would have surely died here. He believes if there is a meaning to the mission of Pick Me Up, it is that Phriasis is a worth-saving NPC. While stepping outside the room, the protagonist tells his name to her, and she thanks him, acknowledging that she would have died if it weren't for him. Han sarcastically remarks that they are not done yet and asks whether she has any clue as to why the knights are trying to kill her, but she denies it, expressing her obliviousness. He then hands her a cloth, stating that she is too conspicuous and refers to her as a walking billboard. The princess curiously wonders if he wants her to wear this and what about the dress she is wearing right now. Han sarcastically remarks they will throw it out in a dumpster, asking whether she doesn't want to, but she denies it, as she expected this much. She then requests him to leave her alone for a while, and shortly after, waiting outside, Han overhears her sobbing inside. He heads inside, contemplating that even if it is just by name, she is still a princess, and she is at most 15. Han is sure that it is hard for her to accept the current situation she is in. In contrast, wearing another attire, Phriasis remarks that its texture is weird, while Han bewilders her more by saying that the bugs were laying eggs on it, which catches her off guard. However, Han soon clarifies that he is kidding and places her princess attire and crown in a basket. Afterward, he informs the young miss that they will leave in 2 to 3 hours, suggesting she should sleep. She heeds his command while Han speculates that if something happens to Eren, he will receive a status abnormality message. He concludes that they still have time and hopes Eren to hold on just a bit more. Later that night, while the princess is asleep, Edith returns to them and informs Han that she has found an exit, but that there is a small problem. She discloses about the presence of human knights and soldiers. Han sneakily notices that there are 22 adversaries, which are way too many for just 2 of them to deal with. Noting the impending danger, Edith wonders whether they should go to another gate, but Han refuses, stating that it would be a time waste because he is sure it's the same there. He believes that he can get through the adversaries just by himself, but he can't overlook the princess, and it only counts as a success if she makes it out of the gates. Han then notices the on-guard human knight and acknowledges that a level 21 knight is at least 5 levels higher than most knights he has dealt with, but he has no choice. He then turns his attention to Edith, asking if she knows about the location of Eren's party. However, when she denies his inquiry, Han asks whether she is aware of this city's layout. When she concurs, Han remarks that if she returns to the shelter, there is a dress and crown and instructs her to find Jenna and have her put it on. Noting Edith's curiosity, he reveals that they will use Jenna as bait. According to Edith's information, they can't leave any other way. They could inspect more if they had the time, but they don't know how long Eren will hold out because of his injury. Han asserts his belief that if Jenna disguises herself as the princess and creates chaos, some of the soldiers here will leave. Edith recognizes her assignment and swiftly turns around to heed his command. Han decides to leave the shield here to avoid any possible risks as it may reflect the light. Han informs Phriasis that they will make it out of there within an hour and advises her to stay inside until he gives her the signal to run away. When the princess anxiously asks what if he is hurt, Han urges that even if he is dead, she must take care of herself. She then guesses this is their last moment together, and Han remarks that it is probably the case. On the other hand, Eren's condition continues to worsen, and blood starts streaming down his mouth, which intensifies tension among his comrades. Ivolka becomes concerned for his well-being and wonders how long they have to wait, as at this rate he might die, while Jenna anxiously urges Eren to hold on a little longer. In contrast, Han lunges to survey the surroundings, acknowledging that they can't stall any longer and devise a plan to leave the city before dawn. While stealthily surveying the situation, Han contemplates that Jenna and Phriasis have similar physiques, so it will be hard to differentiate between the two in the dark. Suddenly, Han is taken aback when the system notifies him that Eren has been inflicted with deadly poison and his condition is worsening. Noting the urgency, Han swiftly rushes, considering that if Jenna is found in her disguise, the forces will all gather around her, and it might endanger everyone. He concludes that they need to attract the enemy's attention while protecting Eren. However, it will be difficult, but they have no other option. Amid the chaos, Han's skill awakened, and he acquired Stealthy Moments skill, which helped him swiftly pass by the soldiers without being caught. On the other hand, Edith huffingly approaches Sub-Party 2 and urgently commands Jenna to change her attire with Phrasis's. In contrast, unbeknownst to the soldiers, Han, with the help of his newfound skill, closely keeps an eye on them, acknowledging that it's a skill a thief might learn, but luck seems to be on his side right now. There are 22 enemies, and he doesn't know how many will leave once Jenna starts acting. He considers that it is a worst-case scenario if he has to fight all the adversaries alone, but he decides to wait until the signal is fired. Out of the blue, a massive fire tornado appears in another location, which catches the soldiers off guard. Amidst the chaos, a soldier approaches the captain, informing him that they have found the white dress and golden crown princess, just like he said. The captain urgently commands his underlings to follow him, and the troops swiftly act upon his commands and rush to apprehend the princess. Meanwhile, Han sneakily witnesses all the amiss and finds that only 4 soldiers are remaining. However, the human knight is still there, which he finds a bit concerning but admits that it's a much better scenario than earlier. As the timer starts running, Han, with a stern demeanor, lunges to assault the soldiers. He precisely overpowers the soldiers without providing them enough time to retaliate. After subduing the soldier, Han sternly strides toward the level 21 knight, urging him to move if he doesn't want to die. However, the knight remains unfazed and unsheathes his sword, prompting Han to realize that verbal warnings will not work for her. He acknowledges that he can't slice through that armor with his current strength, so he decides to go for the gaps in the armor, but unfortunately, there aren't many. Without wasting a second, Han rushes to assault that formidable adversary, but to his surprise, the knight effortlessly evades his attack. Nevertheless, the protagonist doesn't let his guard down and persists in his relentless onslaught. However, the knight remains vigilant and efficiently deflects the attacks. At that moment, Han discerns that the brat is just dodging but not retaliating. The protagonist reflects that he has purposefully left openings in between his attacks, but the knight hasn't even counterattacked as he is confident for his victory, even if he stalls for time. With a newfound determination, Han calls out his adversary to attack. Amidst their brawl, the system notifies the master that Jenna is inflicted with bleeding and Eren is on the brink of death, alerting him that his life is in danger. Han swiftly unleashes his berserk skill and lunges to overpower that formidable knight. As his strength stat increases to 40, he decides to destroy his armor with relentless assaults if he can't slice through it. Suddenly, the system mentions that Ivolka has fallen into a state of mana frenzy, which occurs when mages overuse magic. Realizing the urgency and lack of time, Han urgently commands the kid to run and ignore whatever happens. While confronting the knight, he urges her to run out of the castle gates quickly. As Phriasis acts upon his command, the knight turns his attention to the princess and rushes to assault her. However, before he can lay a hand on her, Han vigilantly intervenes and dodges his attempt while the girl continues to run. Suddenly, a dark assassin appears out of the blue and shoots a poisoned dagger at her, but Han takes that shot on his back and saves the girl. This sudden turn of events catches the princess off guard, and she anxiously calls out Han. Nevertheless, Han sternly urges her to run. The system notifies the master that the party is at risk of death. Meanwhile, due to the poison dagger, Han starts bleeding profusely, which reduces his HP for some time. Seeing that Han is injured, the knight avails the opportunity and dashes to overpower him. Despite being injured, Han doesn't let his guard down and somehow manages to block that assault. Han retaliates with all his might, prompting the adversary to slide backward. In a moment of defiance, Han takes the poison dagger out of his body, causing the blood to gust out of his mouth, and swiftly stabs the knight's face with it. Han then tumbles on the ground, considering that if he weren't wearing the breastplate, the dagger would have shattered his ribs. Amid the chaos, he grins, acknowledging that he has done much damage to the enemy, and sarcastically asks the knight if it hurts. Suddenly, to his surprise, another dark assassin appears out of nowhere and aims an arrow at the princess. Han takes the dagger out of the knight's face and tumbles him aside. He swiftly stabs the assassin with that dagger, sternly pondering what the hell he is looking at. Meanwhile, the armored knight attempts to attack from the back, but Han abruptly leaves to dodge it and ferociously kicks that brat and stumbles him aside. Before the knight can counterattack, Han leaps and knocks down that knight with a precise assault of his sword. On the other hand, the young princess manages to pass by the gate, but the stage isn't over yet until she escapes the city. After assassinating the formidable adversary, Han exits his berserk state and tumbles to the ground. His condition starts worsening because of the poison, but the girl has a long way to go. On the other hand, Edith confronts the adversaries to halt their progress. Jenna is being pursued while Ivolka seems exhausted because of mana frenzy, and Eren is on the brink of death. Soon, the princess manages to escape the city without any injury. With that stage clear, Han is considered the most valuable player in this quest, and the rest of the team members are leveled up. Later, as they are being teleported, Jenna frustratedly remarks that she thought she would die. She yells at the protagonist, wondering whether he made her wear that weird outfit, but Han curiously counter-questions whether she didn't like it, emphasizing that it looked really expensive. Jenna frustratedly clarifies that's not the issue and discloses that all the soldiers were trying to kill her because of that attire, while Han remarks that, thankfully, no one died. He then turns his attention to his team and commends their hard work since no one died and they cleared the boss stage. Meanwhile, the system informs the master that the stage recording has been saved, and he can share it with others on the internet. After that, the master logs out. In contrast, Han especially praises Edith's work and admires that this would have been really hard without her. In response, Edith, with a grin, downplays it, stating that she just did what she should. She then steps out of the dungeon, revealing that she will return to her party as he didn't intend on staying for long, and expresses her certainty that the master will bring someone in to complete Party 1. Han acknowledges that this entire thing, along with the bait plan, would have been impossible without Edith's geographical knowledge and information gatherings, so he believes the real MVP of this mission is Edith. After that, Ivolka steps out of the crack of space and time, expressing her desire to rest after that fierce battle, while Jenna suggests Eren not to be sad, as he was just unlucky, and clarifies that he wasn't a burden. As she also exits the portal, Eren calls out Han and apologizes for whatever has happened because of him. In response, Han urges him not to do that again and emphasizes that he will not save him twice. Eren asks whether there is a guarantee that the same thing won't happen next time, to which the protagonist turns around and wonders what the hell he is talking about. Eren then ponders whether Han intends to take him to the end of his tower and disdainfully reveals that he doesn't think he can catch up with the rest of them, no matter how hard he tries. He asserts that the gap between him and the rest of the party members grows daily, prompting Han to wonder what he is talking about. However, Eren, fully engrossed in despair, apologizes to Han and passes by him, admitting that he is speaking nonsense. When Eren walks aside, Han contemplates the losses they took because of him this time and reflects that they would not have had to risk so much if he hadn't gotten injured. However, Han realizes that he is the one who chooses to save Eren, and his lack of judgment is what puts them in danger. Eren's current level is 14, so there isn't a difference in level, but the stat growth rate is different. Han contemplates that Jenna and his stats increased by 5 or even 6 when they leveled up, but Eren's didn't change. It is even worse when they consider skills. His proficiency is low, and he has very few skills too, and despite having good basic combat skills, he is not good at utilizing them. Han speculates that they can somehow do with what Eren has for now, but the gap will continue to widen as time flies, and eventually he will be left out of his lack of skill and end up dying during a mission. The protagonist contemplates that they don't have much time left with him since he isn't talented enough to survive. Han didn't abandon Eren because he had grown on him, but he hadn't become so irrational that he would keep a useless member. Han concludes that if he cannot keep up, he will be left behind, and that truth has always been valid. The following day, Ivolka jumps in excitement and confirms whether he will not feed them only potatoes or something because they aren't running. Han enhances her joy, assuring that he will not, and reveals that it will be voluntary training from today onwards, so he does not need to make a training schedule. As she happily departs, Han turns to Jenna and Eren, revealing that this arrangement will go on for 3 days and likening it to a mini vacation. He then asks about their plan, to which Jenna remarks with a giggle that it will feel a little weird to rest the whole time, so she will train until dinner and then rest, as it has become her habit now. Later that day, Han ties 10 kg weights on each leg and dashes in the training ground to improve his agility. He considers that if he doesn't do at least this much, he won't get tired since his physical strength has reached the human limit. He wonders whether this is also an effect of the interference power Isel talked about. Han contemplates that after he gave his strategy manual to editing, the atmosphere of the waiting room changed. Low-ranking heroes were always on edge when they were being thinned out, but as time passed, they also started to relax. Since the master wasn't synthesizing them, they didn't need to compete with each other. As he is done with training, 2 newbies approach Han on the training ground, prompting him to wonder what the rising stars of Party 3 want from him. One of the guys named Belkist grins, stating that he has heard a funny story when he comes to the waiting room. He sarcastically reveals that it doesn't matter who they were before coming here, whether they were noble or trash. They have to prove that they are worthy if they want to live. The guy comments that when someone told him that, he got excited, considering that this might be where anything was possible if he just proved his worth. Belkist reveals that he enjoyed fighting with his life on the line, but now he hears the laughter of those worse than dogs and pigs. Han is aware that Belkist is also one of the second generation, but an oddity, even though he hadn't gone through synthesis, he willingly trained and is as persistent as Eren. His talent is also outstanding. Belkist unsheathes his sword and expresses his regret for coming here late. While maliciously licking the sword, he urges that if his sunbees allow him, he would like to educate those brats, asking Han if he can. In response, Han asks him not to act out of line, but Belkist sarcastically persists in teaching them a lesson, emphasizing his awareness regarding not killing others. Han becomes annoyed and menacingly gazes at Belkist, who finds it scary and abruptly apologizes for acting out. However, he refers to Han as Sunbee, asking him to answer whether he was lying to him about proving his worth. Belkist adds that he doesn't think proving one's worth has any meaning here, as he has heard there is a great system of synthesis where trash could be disposed of, but oddly enough, the master doesn't use it. In response, Han urges him to return to work and highlights that he will know soon enough. Belkist then turns around and, with a smile, says that he will wait and see. As the newbies walk away, Han reflects that when he operated Niflheim, his rule was to use synthesis with caution, and when he posted his strategy, many masters followed his rule, but everyone failed. He believes that fear is one of the greatest motivators for induced actions in heroes. Without synthesis, the heroes won't listen to their master, become lazy, act as they wish, and even defy orders. Han considers it similar to their current situation, where the number of active members relative to the number of total heroes is too low. While walking in the town square, Han notices Enoch, the carpenter, and wonders whether he is back from the daily dungeon, speculating that something must have happened. He then approaches the carpenter, asking why he is going into the storage by himself. In response, Enoch informs him that no one is doing any work. They tossed a few branches and lazed around in the forest. He sardonically thanks those lazy brats that he had to do all this by himself. Enoch further adds that the situation has changed a lot because those people had no choice but to die back then, stating that the world has gotten so much better. Han then gazes at the sky, contemplating that at this point, Anakin should also notice that the daily dungeons and training aren't going well. Noting that operational efficiency is quickly deteriorating, Han believes there are 2 solutions to resolve it. Solution 1 is mass synthesis, in which most second-generation heroes will be sacrificed, but the work and training efficiency will increase. However, if it is misused, the stress level will skyrocket. Solution 2 is motivating the heroes with something other than fear. Meanwhile, the system notifies the master about his current development level, which includes hero chemistry research, facility improvement research, and dungeon information research. The master then upgrades the facility improvement research to level 1 and unlocks Facility Customizer, which allows the master to edit the facility's structure as he desires. Meanwhile, Han notices the master's activity and grins, speculating that there will be a party soon. Out of nowhere, Eren approaches Han and requests to have a duel with him. Noting his weariness, the protagonist remarks that he has already sparred with Edith as well, so he would not last a minute. However, when Eren insists that he is alright, Han ponders whether he thinks pushing himself is all he needs to get stronger. Suddenly, upon Master's command, Isel calls out for everyone to gather at the town square, prompting Han and his comrades to pause training for now. Later, when everyone gathers around, Isel confirms whether everyone except for the ones in the dungeons is here and warns that those who aren't here or sleeping will be in trouble. When Chloe affirms everyone is here, Isel urges them to move into the storage. Soon, as they heed her command and get into the storage, Isel tells them they might disappear if caught in it, so they must be careful. With increasing curiosity, they anxiously wonder what she means, to which Isel reveals they will do mass renovation. Suddenly, everything starts shaking, which creates chaos, and they become bewildered. Meanwhile, the system mentions the master about the facility's construction, and Eniton upgrades the residences and training grounds to level 3. Jenna realizes it's renovation time since they have many more people here, which startles Edith. However, with a grin, Jenna acknowledges Edith's lack of awareness since she got here late, and informs her there was a time when the master created facilities in the waiting room for them. She hopes the master to create a bathhouse with warm water. On the other hand, with the appearance of new facilities, the town square has evolved to level 3. In contrast, Eren curiously asks Han what he thinks will appear next, to which Han remarks that who knows, but it won't be what Eren is expecting. His comment startles Eren, and he anxiously asks for clarification. With a stern demeanor, Han asserts that he will see. Jenna advises the rest of the heroes not to worry, stating that the master is making new buildings for them since they used to stay in a shabby place. Her revelation fills the one-star losers with excitement, and they start imagining having nice beds and new food too. Soon, Isel informs everyone that the construction is done and that they can step outside the storage. As they head out, they are taken aback to find a fully renovated lobby and evolved into a 2-floor building. Since the number of floors has been increased, the system notifies the master that he can build more facilities. Everyone is amazed by this change in buildings, and Jenna is super excited about the new bathhouse. When the heroes head inside the lodging, they are taken aback to find an empty room with just one table inside, and there aren't any carpets or decorations anymore. All the fireplaces in the rooms have disappeared, and the beds are gone too, which bewildered them, and they wonder whether they are supposed to sleep on the floor. Jen is confused by this turn of events and curiously remarks that it shouldn't happen, but Han grins sarcastically, emphasizing that it can happen. However, the scenes upstairs are totally different from the first floor, and they wonder who will stay there. The second floor is fully furnished. Some low-rankers start quarreling for the room, while Edith is confused and wonders about the master's intentions. Hearing the nonsense they are talking about, Isel urges them to move to the second-floor square, as the master will assign them rooms. Later, when everyone gathers there, Isel reviews the master's order and urges them to listen to her carefully, as she will them master's orders about room assigning. She then unveils that all members of Party 1 will be on the second floor, while the one-star hero states that he has already prophesied that Mr. Han would be on that luxurious floor. According to her, it's the same for Part 2, which astonished them, and she tells them they can choose their rooms since there are many. Furthermore, Chloe, Enoch, Walter, Patrick, and Amarin will also be on the second floor, which fills them with excitement. Isel's final declaration that everyone else will be on the first floor bewilders them, and they start protesting against the master's orders. Soon, Party 3 returns from the dungeon and notices the chaos. Belkist sarcastically wonders what's going on, and an onlooker informs him that the master is assigning the rooms. Meanwhile, Jenna nervously approaches Han, as she finds the turn of events strange. However, Han nonchalantly remarks that it's perfectly normal, but only 13 people on the second floor astonish Jenna. Belkist then wonders whether Party 3 is also on the first floor, while the rest of the one-star heroes continue to rebuke Isel for this injustice. Until now, the heroes have been living similar lives, and the level of effort and progress differed from individual to individual, but the rewards were the same. That management method is fine as long as there are very few heroes and the master is using synthesis. However, to level up the lobby's heroes, there must be a separation. While Han and Jenna are engrossed in conversing, Mage Ivolka arrives there and remarks that the situation seems like aristocrats and peasants. According to her, it's an obvious path to take if the master wants to manipulate them to his will. She wasn't likening how the one-star bastards ran things, so she acknowledged the master's decision. Han mentions that she always gets up early, trains until it's late, and also hunts in the daily dungeon, and most of the meat they consume is from her hunts. When he asks her about those one-star heroes, she remarks that they don't do anything, and Edith wonders whether the master is creating ranks instead of synthesis. Meanwhile, the heroes continue to retaliate, urging the fairy to reassign the rooms and yell how they are supposed to sleep in rooms without beds. The facility customization feature was only used to decorate the lobby a bit at the beginning of the game until masters realized that heroes are very similar to humans. Han discerns that Master Enitin created the A3 model he used at the beginning of Niflheimer. There are disadvantages, but it was the simplest way to decrease the usage of synthesis. On the other hand, Isel becomes enraged as those guys are getting on her nerves. In a fit of rage, she ferociously smacks the floor, prompting those brats to hurl aside because of its powerful impact, while the rest find it hard to stand on the ground. She considers that they are so entitled and emphasizes that just a month ago, they all would have been synthesized but won't, so they should know how lucky they are. They try to argue, but she warns them of her nuclear punches, catching them off guard. She sardonically hopes that they don't have any complaints and then calls out Chloe and Amarin. She says both ladies will work as cooks on the second floor and be in charge of the second floor residents' meals. Witnessing that cooks are just assigned to the second floor, one of the one-star heroes expresses his concerns and anxiously wonders how the first floor heroes should eat. However, Isel doesn't pay much attention to their concerns and asserts that it's their problem, suggesting they must eat dirt or something. With a sigh, Isel unveils that the first floor is banned from meat, and there are potatoes in the first floor cupboard, so they can roast that or something, which further enrages them. One guy ferociously approaches her, asking if that's all they are supposed to eat, and he yells that she is making them sleep on the floor and not even giving them food. Bursting in anger, he is already upset enough for being here against his will, and now they are treating him like that. He sternly asks whether she thinks he will take this kind of treatment. When Isel menacingly ponders his intentions, he unsheathes his sword and lunges to assault Isel, but she remains unfazed. Suddenly, that guy's blood splashes and his arm goes off, flying, which catches him off guard, and he screams in agony. Out of nowhere, someone catches the amputated arm, and Isel sternly turns her attention to that anonymous person, wondering what the hell he is doing. It's Belkist who amputates that angry man, and with a grin, he remarks that it's fine as long as he doesn't kill that guy. A few hours earlier, before this ruckus, a bearded man informs Belkist that Han doesn't care who they were before. Whether they were an aristocrat or garbage, they must show their worth if they want to live. The man advises Belkist to follow the rules strictly if they want to get used to this place and must not bother Party 1 and 2 as they are absolute monsters. Belkist claims that he has seen them training and speculates that if they can get that strong with training, he feels he could take on Eren. He then asks about Han's prowess, to which the man remarks that he isn't sure since he hasn't been to their party. Belkist then wonders where he heard these rumors, and the man reveals that Jenna tells them many things unlike the other party members. When Belkist asks whether he has witnessed synthesis, the man denies it, revealing that he came here after his master stopped with it, and that's why he is still alive. Belkist concludes that one can get stronger with each battle and earn various skills by training, and this place's leader is Han. He grins suspiciously and thanks that man for the information. At that moment, the man introduces himself as Alan, asking whether Belkist has any more questions. However, after attaining vital information, Belkist rolls his eyes and asserts that he is uninterested in his name. Back to the present, Belkist swirls his sword, saying he has heard about his Sunbee's hardships. It must have been fascinating, and he was rather upset about being late to the party. While the guy is trembling in pain, Belkist believes it doesn't look like it matters whether one proves his worth. However, from what he heard, there was an excellent system to get rid of the trash, but it seems like the master doesn't use it, and he finds it weird. He then arrogantly hurls the guy's arm next to him, asserting that he can put back his arm by himself, and it will stick on its own if he presses it rightly. The sudden turn of events sends shivers down the spines of the other one-star heroes. With a malicious grin, Belkist claims that he has returned to a rather interesting event that he likes very much. He then maliciously wonders whether anyone else wants their arms cut off. One of the heroes anxiously refers to him as a psychotic bastard, but Belkist doesn't take this comment seriously and remarks that it's better to be a psycho than to be a useless pig. Han chimes in and ponders Belkist's intention behind this ruckus, to which Belkist apologizes, claiming that he was so disgusted that his body reacted before his head could. Gazing at the amputated guy, Han believes that he is lucky because if it weren't for Belkist, his head would have been crushed by Isel. Shortly after, when Isel asks whether he knows about the changes, Belkist asks if she is asking about the division of the first and second floors. He considers the first floor a dumpster, whereas the second floor is luxurious. Isel concurs and informs him that his party is also on the first floor, but he doesn't let his guard down and confidently remarks it's nothing to worry about since he will make it up soon. Isel then wearily summarizes the entire scenario for the idiot that out of the 13 are on the second floor, while the rest of 32 are on the first. She unveils that second floor guys can use all facilities freely, but the first floor can't, and warns them that they will end up in a dire situation if they try to sneak to the second floor. Furthermore, she advises that they improve their skills to make it to the luxurious second floor. The fairy then presents Han as the perfect role model, claiming that he is the invincible super ace, so they should learn from him. While she mentions Han's genius techniques, which he unleashed on the 15th floor, Han pulls her cheeks, urging the heroes to show off their skills if they want to live a good life because the master is watching them. He emphasizes that if the master thinks they are doing well, he will send them to the second floor. In response, they express their concerns and consider it too harsh for them, as they were dragged here against their will, and now they have to live like this. Eavesdropping their conversation, Belkist attempts to unsheath his sword again to teach them a lesson. However, Han turns around in time and menacingly halts him, urging that's enough. The protagonist says that all of them are the same as second floor heroes since they were also dragged here, but it was worse for them. Han then turns his attention to Jenna to verify, and she agrees with his revelation, saying that, unlike these guys, they didn't even have food, and one mistake meant synthesis. Han asks whether they think they trained all day because they like it. This revelation startles them, and one of them anxiously wonders whether that means they want them to fight like him. Han exudes a menacing aura and agrees with that man's assertion. The protagonist contemplates there isn't a significant need for support roles and gathering roles yet, as Enoch, Chloe, and Amarin are already assigned. Most are combat roles, and the talented minority will make it to the second floor. However, half have accepted this reality, while the other half is still in denial. Han contemplates that this situation is worse for first floor residents since they used to have all the luxuries by now. For a system transition, one needs to push off free gacha, or go about it gradually. There is bound to be resistance when you change too much at once when things are already set in place like this. More people approach Han and anxiously ask if he wants them to fight out there while being treated like trash. What kind of unfair trash is that? When they refuse to fight and declare that they will take back what is rightfully theirs, Belkist sarcastically remarks they didn't fight even when they were being well fed. One of the offenders tauntingly asks Han whether he thinks they would not get the secret they were hiding, prompting the protagonist to wonder what he is talking about. The man reveals he is discussing Han's tactics to change his master's mind. Furthermore, he refers to Isel as a monster who can't put his hand on them and expresses his certainty that he must have tried really hard to hide it, but they all know. Meanwhile, Isel is stunned by their false accusations about Han. Sithan then convinces his comrades with these baseless assertions, and they collectively refuse to fight. The system notifies the master that due to the massive strike, Party 4 and 5 are inoperable, and the heroes are revolting. Noting that chaos, Han takes off his sword and hurls it towards Sithin, urging him to cut off one arm of each with this sword as Belkis did, then he will let him live. His stern command catches that man off guard, and he anxiously wonders whether he is out of his mind. With a menacing demeanor, Han declares that if words don't work, he will take the matter into his own hands, which might be an inexpensive lesson fee. However, they remain unfazed this time, asserting their awareness about denying master's orders. Han acknowledges the hero's right to disobey his master, and Isel can't put a hand on them except for exceptional circumstances. Edith then advises they must leave it since her party has risked their lives when they disobeyed, but Sithin continues to argue, asserting that they are also risking their lives. Suddenly, as per the master's directive, Isel commands Belkis, Alan, and Leslie to enter the synthesis chamber, which catches them off guard. Noticing their reaction, Isel wonders whether it's their first time seeing it and warns them if they don't enter, she will push them into that chamber. Meanwhile, Han finds it hilarious that those brats know about disobeying but not about synthesis, while Jenna remarks that she has told them about it, but guesses they weren't paying much attention to her. It's been a while since a synthesis happened, that's why more guys don't know about it now than the ones who do. When Alan and Leslie are reluctant, Isel forcibly drags them along and hurls them inside the chamber. Alan is taken aback to find Belkis there, while Belkis sarcastically comments that it is nice to see him again and thanks him for the last time since he taught him a lot. Belkis reflects on Alan's offer to ask him things and maliciously apologizes, stating that he won't ask him anything now. Soon, the synthesis is complete, and Alan and Leslie become light while Belkis, a 2-star hero, levels up and acquires new skills. After synthesis, he feels as good as hell, but finds it insufficient. With a spiteful demeanor, he wonders whether there is more, as he still can see a few offerings. Observing his longing for more, Han comments that he has had his fill and is done with his turn. However, Belkis finds it unfortunate, but he commends it as a good experience, hoping it occurs more often. Shortly after, the fairy calls out 3 other heroes named Nerissa, Oliver, and Walter, which startles the older man, and he anxiously mentions that he worked diligently. Isel then clarifies that it's Walter, not that older man named Walter, who sighs in relief. Meanwhile, Walter is startled by this sudden turn of events and ferociously grabs Sithin's collar. He yells that Sithin said nothing would happen, but things are different from what he said. Sithin anxiously remarks that should be the case. From what he heard, nothing should have happened. It further enraged that Guy and turns his attention to Isel, urging that this man tricked him. However, Isel ignores them. Later, in the synthesis process, Oliver and Walter disappear into light, and Nerissa Eeyore, the 2-star hero of Party 3, is up. As she emerges alone from the synthesis chamber, it catches the other brats off guard, and they realize the impending danger. Sithin abruptly stops the strike, and the system notifies the master that Party 4 is now operable. However, Isel commands Jenna and Lawrence to enter that chamber. Meanwhile, despite the strike being called off, the master continues the synthesis without ceasing, which catches them off guard, and Sithin is overwhelmed with panic. Han is obvious because they are being made an example for other heroes. Although the current method is more moderate than running everything with the threat of synthesis, it's not as if fear isn't necessary either. When Isel calls out Edith and Little, the guy grows increasingly frantic and approaches Han to say something to Master. As he has heard that Han can communicate with his master, he pleads with him to stop this madness. Nevertheless, Han remains resolute and proposes that Little use that sword to cut off one of his arms. Then he will tell the master, which catches that guy utterly off guard. Han remembers his words and considers amputating their arm a cheap price to pay. Suddenly, Sithin interjects, anxiously yelling at Han whether he is telling the guy to sever his own arm, but Han remains unfazed and concurs with his assertion. Meanwhile, Little finds it too much to cut off not even a finger but the whole arm. However, Han reminds them of their claim about putting their lives on the line. The guy tremblingly asks Han to cut off his arm since he can't do it himself, but Han denies it because these guys have already created a scene, and he can't let them get off scot-free for the good of the future. The protagonist acknowledges that it's not an easy feat to sever one's own body part. A few tried to cut off their own arms, but they all failed because to survive in one swing, they needed a swordsmanship skill or a strong enough stat. If not, they would have to cut away with a saw slowly. Isel then commands Han and Sithin for synthesis, which catches him off guard. Shortly after, inside the chamber, Sithin is overwhelmed with fear and asks Han what will happen to him, but the protagonist assures him not to worry, it won't hurt. Sithin then disappears into light, and Han's experience is enhanced. However, it isn't fulfilling for Han, and after that only 25 heroes are left. Suddenly, someone calls the two heroes crazy monsters, which enrages Belkist, and he attempts to unsheath his sword, but Han halts him. Belkist wonders whether they are done making examples of them, because it seems some left couldn't even commit and could only bark. However, Han counter-questions why Belkist is acting up when he says it's okay. With a sarcastic grin, Belkist remarks that Han is a relatively calm senior, unlike him, because he would have cut them all up right about now. He then walks aside, confidently claiming that next time, they will meet on floor 2. Later, the master commences 10x summon. Now, depending on the rank, the place where the newbies are summoned is also different. Heroes from free summons were on floor 1, and those from premium were summoned on floor 2. After the arrival of 1-star newbies, the culling started, and through this, at least 2 would die, and a minority of them could come up. Gazing down at the newbies, Han advises his comrades not to let their guards down because they are floor 2 residents and emphasizes that they can also be dropped down. With the existence of floor 2, Jenna speculates that floor 3's existence is also not far off. Han concurs with her assertion that the floors will continue being created and ranks will also be differentiated. On the second day, as Han joins Jenna at the dining table, she tells Han that she doesn't know why, but today's breakfast is so good. Han finds it natural because there are fewer people to feed. While enjoying the meal, Jenna wonders how Miss Chloe and Miss Amaran managed to prepare for 30 people all this time. With a gentle smile, Han speculates that 2 of them might have had their cooking skills leveled up. He sardonically adds that floor 1 should be peeling potatoes about now. Later, Han contemplates seeing most of the facilities from here with the change to their residences. Floor 2 is visible everywhere, so if people are dissatisfied with their living conditions, they won't be able to help set their goals high. After breakfast, Han approaches the training ground, where Eren is already engrossed in training. Han wonders whether Eren sleeps just about 3 hours, but Eren clarifies it's about 3 hours, prompting Han to call him nuts. The most significant change to the training grounds after becoming level 3 was that there were now individual training halls and a sparring ground. The individual training halls can be locked from the inside, so Han can now do his berserk training in the early mornings without being noticed. The sparring grounds aren't affected by the accelerated healing of the waiting room, which means they can spar with realistic conditions, and one would need to get dragged outside if they suffer serious injuries. As the facilities have improved, so will the party. However, Han considers the problem is who the party 1 and 2 will fill their vacant slots, either Belkist or Narissa Eeyore. Belkist's personality is aggressive and fearless. His talent is above average, and the wild nature skill he awakened yesterday is a rare ability with an acquisition rate of less than 1%. Wild nature is a passive skill that changes status conditions like rage and fear into combat power, so it has immense synergy with skills that forcibly put oneself through status conditions. On the other hand, Narissa lacks combat power relative to him, but she is calm and collected. She is excellent at stealth, disguises, information gathering, and other specialty actions, so if she is injured well, she will grow to become a proficient thief. Han then watches Belkist down in the training ground, overpowering the newbies. When Belkist notices him, he mocks Han with a gesture, while Han grins and refers to him as an arrogant brat. In contrast, the newbies beaten up by Belkist in spar start healing. As Han approaches Belkist on the training ground, Belkist grins and asks whether the senior can use him once since only dogs and pigs here can't handle his blade. Han then asks whether Belkist said he hated dogs and pigs and, with a menacing aura, remarks that they are all the same beasts to him. Meanwhile, exuding a malicious aura, Belkist asserts they can't tame the beast without whipping. Shortly after, with a grin, they commence the fierce spar. Without having a hard time, Han skillfully dodges all the onslaught attempts of Belkist. He then counterattacks by smacking him with a kick, and because of the powerful impact, the blood gushes out of his mouth. Nevertheless, Belkist doesn't let his guard down and lunges to assault, but the protagonist remains vigilant and deflects all his attacks. Amid their fierce confrontation, Han contemplates that he won't need to unleash his berserk skill if that brat is only this much powerful, and they continue their spar match. Later that day, Isel calls out Party 1, prompting Ivolka to wonder the reason behind her call and ask whether they will climb the tower. Han chimes in their conversation and denies Ivolka's assertion, stating that it won't be the case because they still lack a member. When the mage wonders why they are called, Isel informs that the master has ordered them to go to the exploration dungeon. 3 forms of content, including main dungeon, daily dungeon, and exploration dungeon, are given to the heroes within the space-time rift. Han contemplates that the exploration dungeon has been unlocked since clearing floor 10, but they are getting sent to it now after clearing floor 15. Isel informs them that the space-time rift is open, so they must go down to floor 1. Jenna points to the similar space-time rift door on the 2nd floor, wondering if they can use that, but Isel denies that they can't. When Eren inquires if this exploration is necessary, Han remarks it is unimportant and mentions that it will eat much of their time or take at least a day or 2. He emphasizes that as time passes in the waiting room, it may take even longer. When Ivolka wonders why it takes so long for them to do this, Han also has no information and retorts that once they get in, they will understand. At that moment, the system instructs the master to send money to his heroes, emphasizing that it will help them explore more effectively. Upon master's approval, Isel hands Han a pouch of coins. Han informs his comrades that this is their travel allowance from the master and gives them 3 coins. While they are astonished to have the gold coins, Han advises them not to let their guards down because they can get into a fight. Shortly after, the party heads inside the dungeon to explore Harem Peninsula, and their time until return is 48 hours. Soon, they are teleported inside the portal, and after looking at the surroundings, Ivolka discerns it's Nelsa. Jenna also realizes it was the place on floor 10 and finds it weird because it was a complete mess when they went around it. She